Today, after we finish the prehistoric road trip movie or catching up on Friday's work, we're going to go start chapter 8. So we looked at how evolution works. The next thing we need to look at is evidence for life in the past and how life in the past has been changing. So we're going to open up our slideshow here and press the square out up in the corner as we always do. And we can double tap so that we can edit. I can open this link. There are other ways to open the textbook pages, but then I can go back and split screen. Come on. There we go. With the book slides. So we actually used the story at the beginning of the chapter here, and we have this famous cave in France and some teenagers who were basically breaking and entering went and found some stuff in the cave. So you need to find out what they discovered with detail and who created the thing they discovered. When dating fossils, that doesn't mean taking them out for dinner. When finding the age of a fossil, so we have fossils that get formed. We talk about them in chapter 7. We have relative dating and absolute dating. They both have their advantages. You're going to have to guess which one scientists prefer and explain why. It's definitely a question we could go over on Tuesday. Now, as far as a half-life is something that occurs for relative dating. So there's a mini experiment we're going to do Tuesday to try to show that. And so half-life is in here in italics. And they can last an interesting amount of time. So that's 1, 2, and 3 right there. Possible causes of mass extinction are over here. So mass extinctions tend to happen in between these great changes in life, these eras of life. We're going to learn more about them in section 2. Now, one of the reasons we know these eras of life happen is because of fossils, but we also know that the Earth has been moving around. And Alfred Wegener, long before we had satellites to see this movement, looked at different kinds of evidence to show that it existed. So Pangea is here, and then the evidence Alfred found is over here. I'll show this video in class to help make that make sense. So that's slide 1. Slide 2 is actually going to be on Wednesday because we're going to do a little lab on Tuesday. So slide 2 talks about the ancient Earth. So here's the early Earth. And if you look at this picture and then read the paragraph, you'll see how it was different. And the first life, when did it appear? That number in the book is a little off. We keep finding older evidence for when life appeared. So the number, if you would Google it, would be different than the number that's here. I don't highly recommend Googling, but in this case, it would probably be fine. I'd rather you'd read it. Question 7, cyanobacteria, what did they give to the atmosphere? Well, here they are, some of the first forms of life. And here's what they're giving to the atmosphere. And how did this let life move on land? Well, the picture is trying to show you something critical that needed to happen for life to live on land. Number 8, what organisms colonized land? First colonized land. So most of these creatures were not first. You have to read carefully to see in the Paleozoic, when life starts to move on land, who came out first. And what kind of plants did not exist in the Paleozoic era. And so it tells you which plants were not yet present. In the Mesozoic era, we get dinosaurs and a lot of fun different kinds of plants, but the ending is what we know about. So a bad time for dinosaurs talks about the ending, which is what you need for number 9. And then the Cenozoic era, why do we know the most about it? Well, there's a couple of reasons, and you can read here in the Cenozoic paragraph. Now you'll need these paragraphs for slide 3 to take notes. So the name means, what that means is you look in the picture and highlight the name or in the paragraph. So Cenozoic, and the words mean recent life. So it's going to be in quotations. And so you would put that here, recent life. Where it started and ended is sometimes not so clear. So began about 65 million years ago. There we go. That's helpful. I'm curious if this other chart would tell us. yeah, this other chart does a great job showing the beginning and the end, if you can read that, or you can read the paragraphs. So for the Paleozoic, in here they tell you what the Paleozoic means and when it started and ended. And then for the last stage, you just take the start date minus the end date and you subtract. Now for the two dominant life forms, we need life forms that were big and in charge during this time period. It does not count if they simply existed. So for instance, jellyfish were around and have been around most of the eras of life, but they haven't really been dominating their habitats. For the next set of notes, we need to go to section 3. So for prosimian, we need to look here and figure out what its name means, and it'll be, again, in quotes. And we need a notable fact. So you would read about them and give us one fact about them. For Australopithecine, again, here they are, and we need to know what their Latin or Greek name means, and a notable fact about them. And Homo habilis is up here. Now, there are far many more human ancestors than the book covers, and we'll read about them in detail. Now, for the questions, how long ago did humans and chimpanzees have a common ancestor? We get that one through DNA and not through fossils. And then what structures do humans and apes, what structure allows humans to stand upright that's different from apes? The picture here highlights that. What evidence shows Australopithecine walked upright? There's some lovely evidence here. And how old is the evidence? That's on that page. 13, two big accomplishments of Homo erectus. So things that had not been done before. So we can't say use tools because the hominid before Homo erectus used tools. But there's way more than two answers. Homo erectus was a big game changer for hominid ancestors. Neanderthal did things that Homo erectus didn't. So we can't say things that Homo erectus was doing, like, hunting large animals and building fire. We need new things. And so that's where we need to find Neanderthals. And then why did they disappear? We need to look there. And then where did Homo sapiens originate or start? We have to be very careful about that answer. And then what types of artifacts did we leave behind? So artifacts are over here. Now the book's a little outdated here. I have a lot of supplemental information. And I will play some of the videos in class that are YouTube that you cannot play yourself that will help with that. All right, as always, email or talk to me in class if you have questions. And I hope you enjoy this one. We'll sprinkle in some lab and we'll sprinkle in some movie episodes throughout this chapter.